All right, so we may be struggling with factoring. It is required knowledge for almost the rest of this year. So we want to just figure this thing out. Okay, the first thing we want to talk about is the greatest common factor. Looking at some situations where we use that. Here's a situation: we have two terms. We can take out a greatest common factor. What is divisible? What can be divided into both of these terms? Well, 3 can. So I take out the 3, that's factored. What is left? X squared plus 2. There we have factored that problem. Another situation is when we have 3 terms, but the last one they all have x in them. So I can divide an x out of everything. Now, is there anything else I can take out of all 3 terms? Yeah, I can take out a 2. So you've got to take out the greatest common factor. So when I take out the 2x, what's left? Well, I divide this, I get 6, x to the third divided by x. How do you do that division? You subtract. 3 minus 1 is x squared. This one, 6 divided by 2 is 3, x squared. 2 minus 1 is 1. And then this is just anything divided by itself is 1. Now I have this, and I have to just double check, can I further divide this trinomial? Well, what multiplies to 6 but adds to 3? 1 and 6 multiply to 6 but don't add to 3. 2 and 3 multiply to 6 but don't add to 3. So it's fully factored right now. All right, you go ahead and try. Well, let's do this one together because it's a little different. We look at this term and this term. Well, let's think. We can take out a 2 out of both terms. We can take out, looking at the x's, we can take out 1x out of both, and we can take 1y out of both. So we can see that. We put it over to the left. We are factoring it out, and then we divide to see what's left. 14 divided by 2 is 7. X squared divided by x leaves 1x. Y divided by y leaves 1, so we're done there. Plus 6 divided by 2 is 3. X divided by x, that's just 1. Y squared divided by y leaves 1y. And there, I am fully factored. Okay? This last one you can do on your own. All right. By the way, the answers to anything we leave blank today are also available on Schoology under factoring remediation. Here we go, a different situation. We're factoring trinomials. There are 3 terms, and a is equal to 1. This is a nice, easy way to factor. This is one of our easiest. What we do is we know that this is x. These 2 parts of the binomial are just going to be x. How do we know this? Because when we FOIL them back together, right now we're trying to break them apart. But when we FOIL them back together, x times x will be x squared. So we can be sure that that's what the first term is. The other 2 terms, we do what multiplies to a times c, what multiplies to negative 42, but adds to b, which is 1. Well, I know that 6 times 7 multiply to 42, but I want it to multiply to negative, and I want it to add to 1. I want it to add to a positive, so I keep the larger number positive, I make the smaller number negative, and it multiplies to negative 42 and adds to 1. And then I just plug in x minus 6, x plus 7. So I have factored. Go ahead and do the next one on your own, knowing that this is where you will start. Okay? All right. Getting a little bit harder. Factoring trinomials by grouping or the magic box method. We use both of these methods when a doesn't equal 1. So that's when we're going to use this method. First thing we always want to do is, so first, check for a GCF. Check GCF. Is there something that can be divided out of everything? Well, let's see. Looking at this, I think 6, 3, 9, 4, 6 would do, but 5, that's going to mess everything up. Now, this is one of the toughest situations we'll have. We don't know what all the factors of 36 times 25 are. that are going to add to 60. Like, I don't know. So how am I going to approach this problem? Well, first thing I'm going to do is I do have to find the factors which multiply to 36 times 25 and add to 60. So I'm going to do this on my calculator. 36 times 25 is 900. What multiplies to 900 and adds to 60? No earthly idea. So this is what I'm going to do. Let me show you this neat calculator trick. So you have your calculator, go to y equals, clear it out. What you're going to put in y1, I'm going to put this at the top of your page, is you're going to put AC divided by x. What does that look like here? Well, AC is 900, A times C, divided by x. Okay, and then underneath in y2, you're going to put AC divided by x plus x. Well, AC is 900 divided by x plus x. Okay, now what you do is you go to y2, you go to the table, second table, you look in the y2 column for B, which is 900, which isn't there. So, nope, it's not here. So what does that tell me? That tells me that this does not factor. Okay, and if it does not factor, then what I need to do is use the quadratic formula. Okay, I'm not going to do that here, but you would, if I absolutely needed to factor this, I would do x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where a is 36, b is 60, and c is 25. All right, looking at this problem. Is there anything I can divide out? Well, if you're unsure, you can check 56. Is it divisible by 3? No. Is 56 divisible by 9? No. 12? This isn't divisible. There's nothing that can be factored out of everything. So what do? What is 12 times 9? 12 times 9 is 108. Is there anything that multiplies to 108 but adds to negative 56? I'm going to use my calculator again. Y equals 108 divided by x, 108 divided by x plus x, second table, looking in the y column all the way over to the right for negative 56. There it is. So what it tells me is I go left, negative 2 and negative 54. Negative 2 and negative 54 are the factors that multiply to 108 and add to negative 56. Now I'm ready to use the magic box. So what I do is I make a box. In the first box over here, I put the first term, 9x squared. In the last box, I put the last term, positive 12. And then I take my factors and I write them here, negative 2x, negative 54x. Okay, so now what I have to do is do greatest common factor up and greatest common factor left. So I go up. The greatest common factors here are going to be, let's see, I can take let me see, 54 divided by 3 is 18. I can take a 3 out. I can take a 9 out. So let's take a 9 out. So I'm going to take a 9 out, and then what else? I can take an x out. So that's the greatest common factor. Going left, if this number toward the edge is negative, this will be negative. I can take out a negative 2. I can't take out an x because there's no x there. Now coming left, answer is going to be positive. I can take out an x, and that's all I can take out. Looking here, I can take out a 6, and it's going to be negative. I can take out a negative 6. I can divide this by negative 6 and this by negative 6. Now there we have it, our two factors. So our factors here are 9x minus 2 times x minus 6. And if we wanted to check ourselves, we could FOIL it. 9 times x is 9x squared. 9 times negative 6 is negative 54x plus negative 2x is negative 56. Negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. All right, let's do one. That's the magic box. It's my favorite method. I recommend it. If you wanted to do grouping, this is what you would do. You would say, okay, what multiplies to negative 12? A times C but adds to negative 11. Well, 3 and 4 don't. 2 and 6 don't add any way to 11. 1 and 12. Well, we'll multiply to negative 12 if I make the 12 negative, and we'll add to negative 11. So I can now use, I don't want to use a magic box. I could, but I'm going to use grouping instead. What I do is I keep the outer term and I keep the last term. The first and the last term. I replace negative 11x with plus x, one factor, 1x, and then negative 12x. So I replace the negative 11x with these two factors, times x. Then I make two groups. And I factor the two groups. What's the greatest common factor? Well, I can take out an x. If I divide this by x, I'm left with 3x. X divided by x is 1. From these two terms, I can take out a negative 4. If I divide this by negative 4, I'm left with 3x. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 1. Now my factors, I kind of factor again. I have two terms, this term and this term. What's common to both? 3x plus 1 is common to both. When I divide it out by both, what's left? Well, x is left and negative 4 is left. So that is factoring by grouping. And those are your factors. You may do this one on your own, any way you like. All right, difference of two squares. Again, you're noticing all these videos. You are welcome to watch videos if this is not yet clear. All right, the difference of two perfect squares occurs only when you have a subtraction. You cannot do that by difference of two squares. So only these two can be done with difference of two squares. That is the sum of two perfect squares. So when you have this situation, what do? It's a formula. It's a squared minus b squared. And you've got to figure out what a and b are. Well, a is the square root of the first term, 2x. b is the square root of the second term. We're ignoring the subtraction for now. b is 3. And then we just apply the formula. What's the formula? Well, it's a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So I have a and b. I'm ready to just find the factors. It's 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 3. All right, you can do number 2 on your own. We're almost there. One other situation, which is really a plug and chug situation, and we won't be using it in rational functions, but you will, sometimes it comes up. If it comes up, you will generally get the formula. And it's similar to the difference of two squares. Two differences though. You can do the difference of two cubes and the sum of two perfect cubes. When we think about perfect cubes, what are they? What is a number like 1 has a perfect cube, right? Because 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 has a perfect cube of 8 because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. And what about 27? 3 times 3 times 3 equals 27. Okay, so that's what it's taking the cube root. What number multiplied by itself 3 times will give you an integer? So we'll give you this integer or this integer. So this isn't an integer, it's a variable, but okay, here's what we do. We're going to plug and chug. We're going to follow the formula. So notice we have x cubed minus y cubed. We need to know what x and y are. Or we could substitute this like a minus b if we had a cubed minus b cubed. And we're just finding out, we'd do a squared plus ab plus b squared as our last term. Here's what we do. What is x and y? X is the cube root of x cubed, which is x. Y is the cube root of 8, which is 2. So now that I have x and y, I just plug into this formula. My second formula, because this is the sum of two cubes. So this is equal to x plus y, x plus 2, times, moving over, x squared. Well, I take this and square it, and I get x squared. Minus, different sign, minus x times y, 2 times x, minus 2x, and then plus the y value squared. So 2 squared is 4. So we're just following these formulas up here, plugging and chugging. Okay? You can do the next one. All right, I hope that was helpful. Please watch these videos and go on YouTube and get videos for factoring. And what I would recommend that you practice the most is this type with the magic box or the grouping where A does not equal 1. This is what we struggle with the most. Okay.